Hello and welcome to the Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Ryan. I am here with my co-hosts Josh and Ethan. We are here to talk about our rookies from 2022, how they performed, what we think. We've got a whole tier system going on. I'll let Ethan explain all of that, but we're getting into our rookies from last year, reviewing them. We're going to be going over it over the next couple of weeks. Our QBs, running backs, wide receivers, and I believe tight ends from last year. So, Ethan, why don't you go ahead and explain the whole
Yeah,
tier
yeah.
system
So
that we're
something
going to
we
be using
wanted to
for this?
adjust from
So,
what we did last off season is we loved the grades and the thought out, process that we were doing for each of the rookies. But what we wanted to adjust is give more of an accurate tier system for where we see them as like, all right, here's your number one, QB, or if we're doing all of them in comparison together of like where you should be drafting them in fantasy, here's our top guy, here's, our last guy. And so we wanted to design something that was going to be a little bit more helpful in terms of drafting for your rookie draft. So what we want to look at with this review is even though we're going to be talking about the QBs of last year, when we go into our QBs this year, we're going to take a look back at this tier system and all of our comparisons and all of our, hey, this is where we see this guy getting drafted. A lot of the context for that is going to come from this episode. Hopefully, I explained that
I
well.
You explained that perfectly. I can at least continue this and say what our tiers are. So
Oh, yeah.
mhm.
at tier one, see, I got you, Ethan. I got you. So at tier one, we have that's our superstar ranking. So that's like, hey, we think you're going to be the dude. You're going to impact fantasy for at least the next few years.
Yep.
You are just that guy. I am the guy. Hope y'all know where that's from. Then tier two, this is our very good players to where like, hey, we're really excited about them. We think they can definitely help you win in during the fantasy season. However, they are not the superstar quality that we have for the highest of highs.
Mm.
Tier three is they're good. Nothing more, nothing less. They're just good. Exactly.
They're startable in desperate
Yep, that
situations,
is about it. And then
and
tier four, we
that's about
have
it.
our average. Basically, it's like, hey, we think they're going to be pretty solid. If these are going to be your stream candidates.
Can I go ahead and make a disclaimer right now?
Go make that disclaimer.
So obviously reviewing the QBs of last year,
Do it.
it's not very good. I mean, the only person that was potentially startable, and again, this is if you're desperate, was Kenny Pickett. But I think a lot of these QBs have potential for the future, and I think that what I'm going to try and tailor my tier system around is like not only what this player was when he came in last year, but how I see him moving forward.
I think that's the I feel like the only way to take a look at it,
Mhm.
Ethan. I think you kind of put that in a perfect little
Yeah.
bow right there. And it's because we really want to focus for everyone here before we get to the last tier is that we want to give y'all a projection as well. Because obviously we have a lot of thoughts on how this season's going to be, but we have plenty of thoughts as we go over these episodes to talk about, hey, here's what the future looks like.
Yeah. Well, can
It's
we just call tier five the Matt Corals?
yeah, yeah,
The,
or Alex
the
Held could be
Ryan
on
Leafs?
this one
Let's
too.
go ahead and that's
Yeah.
the
The
coral.
So
Ryan
That's the
Leafs?
coral.
yeah,
The
tier five is our
The
bust tier.
coral.
So
The
that's
coral
is
tier.
you might as well
Here we
drop
go.
in that.
Jamarcus Russells, if you
The
will.
the Ryan Leafs.
Yeah. Tier five is my favorite
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, I think is there really only one player in tier five, you think?
Yeah, it's just Matt Corals.
I I would
Sorry
Yeah.
if you drafted him.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
It's just
I don't
Corral.
even want to put
That's
Anthony
it.
Brown in that category because there were no expectations on Anthony Brown. So it almost
Well, and honestly, we haven't really seen him play too
yeah,
much. Like we saw him play that one game,
he's our incomplete
and
grade,
that's it.
I would say.
So
Yeah,
But yes,
results to
I
be
don't know.
determined.
yeah, so we'll
Results
start
to be
off right off
Yeah,
the bat. Matt Corral is immediately in our bust category. Carolina has the first pick, unless miracles happen, which sometimes they do, but in this situation, I don't think it will. Matt Corral definitely won't be the starter in Carolina, and we'll even
no,
see
yeah,
what happens later on. I think it's just bad situation, bad timing
Yeah.
to a player that could have had a chance, but I think the door's shut very fast. Not
I
yet.
thought
He is
they
still on the
got
teams,
rid of
but
Matt Corral. No, he's still on the team.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, he's still on the
he
team.
is technically the presumed
For some
starter.
reason, I
And
thought they
unless
got rid of him.
Carolina does the unthinkable and takes someone besides CJ Stroud or
Yeah,
Bryce Young.
no.
Oh yeah,
Well, they
no,
have
he
Andy
is yeah.
Dalton.
Dalton is the presumed
They have
starter.
Dalton.
Yeah, but a rookie's going to come in. We all know what's
Yeah, I
going to
was
happen
like,
in
Yeah.
Carolina.
yeah, they picked up Dalton in the offseason.
The Bryce Young brigade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they'll just have, the red rifle sitting behind him,
Big
or even let the
yeah.
rookie
But
sit behind,
otherwise, gentlemen, are you
Andy
ready to
Dalton.
talk about our presumed starters from last year's group?
Yeah, let's do
So
it.
let's start with the one
Yes, let's do it.
who basically
Let's do
took
it.
the
Start
league
with
by
number one.
storm, and I think it's because of the situation and for how good the team is. We're going to talk about Brock Purdy, quarterback for the 49ers, who unfortunately is recovering from a UCL injury right now. Um, Personally, I want to start off with this. What tier would you put him in and why?
Purdy. Purdy's a tier 2 guy for me. Um,
Really?
yeah. So here's my reason. It was kind of I would love to put him in tier 1, but because of how late he came to the team, I think that's what's holding me back from tier 1 is saying this is the guy for the 49ers for the next 15 years. But I do think that he could potentially be their answer of a starting QB for a significant amount of time. I mean, he looked phenomenal. He kind of had to grow into it a little bit, but he had very impressive performances against multiple strong defenses. I think he led them well into the playoffs before getting hurt. And then that was just kind of an unfortunate situation. But I mean, if you look at the team around him, like, Debo's a little bit on the older side, but I mean, Ayuk is young. Kittle's kind of in between, and so is CMC. But Ray McLeod is another young guy that looks pretty electric. So I like the team that's around him going forward.
I I I'm very intrigued by your answer there, Ethan. Ryan, where do you have Brock Purdy?
So Brock Purdy
I
kind
am
of
right there
teetered
with you.
in between
That's
tier
fair.
two and tier three for me. Um, because I really feel like the a big reason for his success was the team around him. Because I mean, he is a rookie. He didn't have a whole lot of experience, obviously, but I think the completeness of the team around him made him look a lot better than what he is. But he can grow into it, because there was some times where he showed skill. He showed that mental awareness in the pocket. So I'm hopeful. I think he could be a tier two guy, but I'm very reluctant to put him into a tier two right now without seeing him without a team around a complete team around him, because that's where it really comes out is, if you don't have a team around you, are you going to be able to fill in those gaps? And
I
that's
mean,
what makes
with
you
Purdy
a
for
great player.
me,
So
I can teeter tier 2 if he gets better. And I'm going to leave the door open for that. I still think it's tier 3 at the moment, largely because I think Ryan put it perfectly. Like, he's very much a steady Eddie for your team. He is essentially, to me, he's essentially a younger Garoppolo. And that's where
I
it's
wouldn't
like, hey,
insult him quite that far, but
Yeah.
well, let's think of like when Garoppolo first got there, because he gets traded to San Francisco. They go 7-0 to end the year. So it like the hype train was there. I think with Purdy
Yeah.
though, I mean, and we'll kind of go through like I'll pull up his stats at the moment, but he never set the world on fire. But he was always there. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
see here,
Give
I've
me
got it
Purdy
set up.
stats.
I've got it here. So he fluxed he fluxed between well, okay, he had 2 touchdowns every single game that he played in, except for the
except for
divisional
the playoffs, which don't matter
Yeah,
any.
yeah,
and the
yeah.
conference playoff games. Yeah, but he every game from week 13 to 18, he had 2 touchdowns. In 3 of those games, he had 1 interception, and let's see, he completed at least 15 passes, and he only went under 200 yards twice,
That's not bad.
and that's it. And fantasy wise, he never scored below 16 points. Like he was honestly, between like 18 to 22 points for 5 out of those 6 games, which is a solid performance. Like if you're in a super flex league, Brock Purdy is a
Yeah,
Yeah, you
and
perfect
but
can get
that's
a very,
QB2
very
but
super
to
for
flex.
you.
but to me that's the ceiling. Like, are you going to go to Brock Purdy and say, you know what, you're the starter? Or
Yeah.
like I had to use him in
No.
in a
No.
pinch because all I had was like Lamar got hurt, and then for my team, and then I had to use Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to go into Brock Purdy going, you know what, that's going to be a fantasy
Yeah.
difference maker for me, and that's who I need to start. Again, if the rest to me it's the if the rest of your team is good and you just need
Yeah.
12 to 15 points fantasy wise,
Boom, get you
Purdy,
some Purdy.
yeah, Purdy's perfect for that. But I think
Yeah.
Purdy has a high floor and a low ceiling, is personally for me, which is why I have him in tier 3. Like, I think he's
Yeah.
good. He's definitely better than average. I give you that. I give him that. But I don't know whether he's in my very good tier 2 yet.
Yeah, he's not
Yeah,
quite there for me. He teeters in between.
I think that's fair.
But
On
I
to
agree with
our
that. I
next
agree with that.
starter. Well, the only one that was
Yeah.
really a starter.
Is our next guy,
Yeah,
which is Kenny Pickett, quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers,
Yeah.
still the presumed starter going into the 2023 season.
he is. It's already
Yeah,
confirmed he's a starter.
already confirmed. Matt Canada still the OC. His weapons are going to be one George Pickens, the Muth,
Yep.
Pat Fryermuth, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris being the main group of group of skill players around him. I'm going to start this one with Kenny Pickett.
Yep.
I have him at tier 3 as well.
Okay.
And largely because yes, I do think he could
Yeah.
get better, and we saw him do really good at Pitt. I just personally did not see enough to make me go, "Oh, hey, he is going to be a complete difference maker." Like he may be a fringe QB2 tier, like he's in the top 24, but to see him in the top 12, I don't know if this offense allows him to do that.
Well, I'm mostly worried about Matt Canada.
And that's exactly my point too.
I like the team. I don't mind the team at all. He seemed to develop a pretty good connection with George Pickens and Frymouth. Deontay is an interesting variable, but Najee, all of that is good. And they don't have a bad offensive line. It's just,
Oh no, they have a
you
well,
know,
they just got better with Isaac Semualo. I believe
Yeah,
I said his
they have a
name right.
bad.
They got
oh
him,
yeah,
which that's a big get
I
because
agree with you. It's definitely tier 3 city. Like he's good.
Yeah.
And then we'll see if he can creep up into that tier 2 range or if he's going to regress a little bit into that tier 4 range and he'll be like, well, that first round pick did not pay off.
yeah, my issue is that right now he's stuck into being a decent jack of all trades, but he's clearly a master of none.
Yeah.
But I feel that way about the Steelers offense
Hmm.
in general. Like they are so built to just like, hey, if we score 24, today's a great day. And it's like I I don't see the scheme to where Kenny Pickett could just uncork it and just go all over the place and like throw, or do I see that there's a team that can run
Yeah.
behind Najee and make it work? That I feel like a lot of my issues with Pickett is that could he be tier two? I think there's a fringe shot. I think it's going to be without Matt Canada though,
I 100% agree.
Hmm.
which yeah, which stinks because he was an older rookie too.
Yeah. So for me, I have him as a low end 3. So we're in the same ballpark. I don't I don't know. I didn't see I didn't see what I like to see out of starting quarterbacks out there with him. And it might have been the system that he's put in, and it might be the offensive scheme. Whatever it is, there it sums off, and he did not play well out there. And I don't know if that's going to change or not. So I just have him as
Yep.
a
Yeah,
tier
so
3.
far we are in agreement, and I think this is where things get interesting. Let's go to Desmond Ritter.
Yeah.
So, so
I'm
Ethan,
no.
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
go first.
Oh, this is your tier 1, huh?
No, definitely not
Yeah,
tier
this is your
one.
tier 1,
I
huh?
think I think Desmond Ritter is the highest on tier three, and this is why. Like this would be my tier three A QB would be Desmond Ritter. Um, reason being he didn't show that he had anything that would put him, with a small sample size in the very good category, right? So there's no argument you can make based on what we've seen from him that he's a tier two QB, and that's just a fact. But what I was excited about and pleasantly surprised with is that he was as advertised, which is a QB who's raw, but he's a leader, and he just keeps getting better the more you play him. And if there's one thing that Desmond Ritter did every single time he played week over week is get better. So I'm very excited to see him kind of take over this summer and see how that looks with him being the guy into preseason and into the first couple of games. Because if Desmond Ritter keeps getting better, well, all the hype around Atlanta is real because the dude's a winner. But if he can't continue to make steps, then that's going to kind of similarly to Kenny Pickett, just drop him in that tier three ranking and into that tier four. He's average, but he's never going to take another step forward.
yeah, I really like that Ethan. Yeah, he's a tier three for me as well.
I'm right there with you,
I
E.
don't know. I still kind of flip flop on all these quarterbacks. I don't know who's my top yet within the tier three, but he's definitely in tier three for me as well. I do think if there's anything that helps him is that minus one other quarterback, he probably has the second best group of skill players around him, honestly. And I think if there's anything that takes him over,
Yep.
it's going to be that. As far as within the fantasy, now thinking about it, he probably has the third best group,
Well,
but that's
and
still really solid.
looking at the Atlanta Falcons, he doesn't need to do that much.
In that Arthur Smith system, so the best thing is that he doesn't have to do much, and the worst thing is he doesn't have to do much.
Yeah, so it is a double-edged sword for his development. But the problem
Yeah.
with Ritter is, if Atlanta had scored 18 plus points, they would have won the majority of their games last season. That is a fact. The problem was the offense could not score. The defense would keep them in it. Obviously they had their, blowouts and stuff here and there. But for the most part, the defense was keeping them in it, and then they would just fumble inside the red zone. or Marcus Mariota would throw a pick, or just something Drake London would fumble, and they would just lose by less than 3 points.
If Desmond Ritter is just able to extend 1 to 2 drives a game, that completely changes the Falcons team entirely. But by extending those, I don't know whether it will translate into a fantasy setting for Desmond Ritter. But I can totally see with the differences between him and Mariota was he will target his players for sure. Like Drake London was doing very good under Ritter, and I think that's something to keep an eye on.
But so was OZ and Algier.
Exactly. So that's the other thing. Algier returns. You get a solid number 2 tight end for Ritter with the Jonnu Smith trade. I still think it's going to be one of the most underrated acquisitions within this entire offseason. I definitely think Ritter has a shot to be a very still low end tier 2, I would say, because I don't think the Arthur Smith system is built for where he can just let it fly all over the field.
Yeah.
But I do think he will have spike weeks if he can get a QB rushing touchdown or not. And for his frame, I think he has a better chance of doing that than Mariota does.
100% agree.
But in order to reach that tier 2, even a very low tier 2 for me,
definitely,
he needs to develop. And whether it's through this off season or through the beginning of the season next year,
well, I think he has the tools to do it. I mean, you've already seen the relationship with Drake London, and he trusts him. And Drake London is just a freak. Like anyone who said he was going to have problems getting open in the NFL, sorry. But what I think is also very, surprisingly good for not only Desmond Ritter, but for Pitt's owners is he loved Michael Pruitt. So now inserting Kyle Pitts into that window of, someone he likes to target specifically in the red zone, now I see Pitts as a higher option, and developing that relationship with him, going from Drake London to Pitts or from Pitts to Drake London, that is going to only help his game.
Do you think
having Kyle Pitts?
Do you think your ranking of Ritter is dependent on how Kyle Pitts is?
Yes.
And I feel like this is the fairest to say it out of any quarterback. He is the most dependent on the players around him, I feel like.
Yeah, because I feel like he has the tools, but he has to like also not just assimilate into the weapons they have, but he has to utilize them. Because the Atlanta offense is good, but it's not good if you don't use the weapons you have, like all of what Marcus Mariota was doing, overthrowing 6'6" wide receivers and tight ends. So as long as he doesn't do that, they'll be good.
Well, and that's part of that.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of that development too. You lean on the players that your skill players. You lean on those players until you develop enough to where you don't need to lean on them anymore, and you can start spreading the ball around. So
I'm excited for him.
He's young.
Yeah,
I think he'll get there. But I think this off season is really a determining
here's the other
factor
reason
for him,
I see that he is
put in
tier
work.
3, and I'll kind of explain this a little bit later, but he's not someone I would trade for right now. And I would trade for him because I think you'll know whether Desmond Ritter is a guy or not within the fantasy world probably by week 8 or 9, because then you by that point you have about a 12 game sample size. You'll understand it's like, okay, let's see, is this guy good or is he bad? And I wouldn't put all your eggs into the Desmond Ritter train right now in the off season. I would definitely give it a few games and see if that's a good idea, whether you're rebuilding and you're going with Ritter, or if you need a last minute push.
If you can buy really low and you are willing to just take a complete shot in the dark, I think buy him for, a low late round draft pick, something that's not going to matter anyways. If it pays off, it'll pay off big. But other than that, yeah, like if someone's asking for more than, I'd say like a third round or more for him, it's it's not worth going after.
Yeah. Yep, totally there with you. So let's go into our last presumed starter. And right now, again, this is all a massive assumption. But based on the moves that they've made, it sounds like this is what's going to be. Sam Howell. He was the quarterback out of North Carolina last year. He was a backup for the most part on the Washington Commanders. But now it looks like he's going to have the starting job. And boy, guys, where do we think he's going to be?
Yeah. He's
I,
going to be
I have
interesting.
no clue. I have no clue. Like we've
It's
only really seen
it's
him in
one
one game,
game, and
and
yet
that's
the
it.
potential of what
One
everything
game.
around him is what excites me.
Yeah. Well, and everything around him, but also, look at that performance on that one game.
Yeah.
He showed up. He actually did something. He had a rushing touchdown. Of course, he had an interception. He had a touchdown though, passing touchdown, 19 or
Not
11
bad.
for 19.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, decent. It's not bad, but he
Which
was also going up against the Dallas
that's where it
defense,
goes.
which
11 for
was pretty
19 is
tight
not
last year.
good, but then you go, but it's against the Dallas defense. Okay, that is pretty good, and so it's very much. I think
Yeah.
his ranking's going to be very subjective.
Yeah.
hmm Well, and
Yep.
with the introduction of Eric Bieniemy into that offensive, scheme that they have going on there, and Scary Terry, they have Jahan Dotson. He's got weapons there. So I think it'll be interesting. I don't quite know where to put him though. I want to put him as a high tier 4 until we actually see
I
more of a
Yeah. I'm kind
uh,
of there as well.
I don't know, more
I
games
was
out of
thinking
them.
fringe tier 3 and tier 4, but I also put that on
See,
it's very hopeful, and
that seems
like it's
hopeful.
nothing really based off
That
of
seems hopeful.
like anything analytical or like statistical. It's just a gut feeling. Because like he came in
Yeah.
last year as one of like the most highly sought after draft prospects. But oh hey, look what happens when you lose your starting two running backs, your starting two receivers, and most of your offense. Of course your numbers go down to where you're a fifth round pick. I
Mm.
like that's where it's like,
Yeah.
all right, I think the hype is there, but also could that all have been a facade since he did have four NFL players on that college offense with him? It,
Yeah.
I definitely think I I am going to say low tier 3, like very low, like on the border of 3 and 4, but that's my most hopeful.
Okay. All right. I mean,
Yeah.
hopeful.
Right.
Yeah, I was about to
Hopefully
say,
he's a
do
tier
you think his
2.
I
potential
mean,
is tier
I think
hopefully he's
2?
a
that's what the
tier
Commanders
one,
need.
Yeah.
you know?
But I mean, he hasn't. Yeah, I
We'll
mean,
see
hey,
what
he
the
could be a
enemy
tier 1. Who
does,
knows? We
but
really haven't seen a big sample
To
size
me,
of him.
that's the key. If the enemy
Yeah.
is as
I
good as
mean, Eric
advertised, Sam
Bieniemy.
Howell can look very good. But if he
he'll be the next Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes, am I right?
Which, by the way, yeah. Which, by the way, my dad
Oh
actually
yeah,
got to meet
he
Eric
said that
Bieniemy
I feel like on one of
one
our
time,
older podcast
apparently.
You said
episodes.
it was
Yeah.
back when he was on the
It's
Patriots,
really
though.
cool.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was back when he was
Wow. So
when he was still playing.
so that's kind of the
So
presumed starters, and as
yeah,
you can tell, not very high on any of them. I think there are a lot more questions than answers regarding. So we're going to actually talk about
none of them.
the presumed backups from this rookie draft class. Gentlemen, I'm just going to go through a list of names. Tell me which person you are more excited about. We got Bailey Zappi, Malik Willis, Skylar Thompson, Anthony Brown. Is there any of them? I was about to say it has to be Zappi, right?
Bailey Zappi.
Yeah. I mean, I
I
want to
mean,
say Willis.
I will
Zappy.
say Willis.
I
Willis is
liked what I
interesting,
saw.
but you just made him go
Oh,
from one
okay.
system to another system, and I don't
hmm
know if the Titans can wait that long. And
Yeah,
because I think athletically Malik Willis could be a tier one.
I agree.
However, based on the opportunity, the team around him especially, and I
And what we've seen so far, it's like,
yeah,
Yeah.
man, that Liberty offense is so like I'm gonna say terrible.
yeah,
And the only reason I say terrible is because it just did not set up Malik Willis whatsoever. And I feel like it has done a massive disservice to Malik Willis's career so far.
potentially, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
we'll see what he looks like this next year. But
and
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I
and
mean,
that's where with
yeah,
Tennessee
possibly
is like,
his
well, they're
development.
moving over. They got rid of Todd Downing, so they're now with offense coordinator Tim Kelly, which is actually one we didn't mention, Matt, on our coaches episode. But he was the pass coordinator of the Titans last year, so he at least has a familiarity with Malik Willis if they choose to go with him as a starter. However, just based on how they played last year, how they played when Malik Willis was in the game last year, was massive panic alarms
yeah,
to be like, oh, this is interesting. Like the talent, all the physical tools are there, and that's the only thing that's going to make me believe in Malik Willis. But we have yet to see an offense that kind of helps him out on the like the football IQ sort of things. I'm not saying that like he can't do it. We just haven't seen it.
yeah. But I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's really it looking backwards. I mean, Zappy and Skylar Thompson and Brown, yeah, there's just not much there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a potential that
Zappy is
Yeah,
just
Zappy
I heard Mac Jones
could
is
see
getting
more
shot,
playing
but I don't
time.
know
They're
exactly what that
shopping
means.
Mac.
So
Yeah. I don't know. Well, apparently they've been shopping
the
him for
only
a
reason I
while.
could think
So
of it
that's
if they
rumored
want to
right
is
now that he's on the trading
if
block.
Belichick the GM wants to go
So
after Lamar, and that is going to be a big if. However, I also think Mac Jones has been so screwed
yeah,
because
I
he
don't
had
know.
McDaniels the last year, which is not bad rookie year. He had
Yeah.
no offensive coordinator last year. So now for me, it's like, how are you going to
no, he had
judge
Matt
him off
Patricia.
that?
Come on,
Matt Patricia? But and so now he has Bill O'Brien, which
that's
I
actually
will
an
say,
interesting fit.
very interesting fit, very Patriot way. But if Mac Jones does not succeed in his offense, I do think Mac Jones might be cooked.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And then and then he'll go to the
Yeah.
Niners and succeed or something like that.
Oh yeah, they
Yeah,
always do. They'll just
To the
it's
glue
just a
factory.
mill. They just throw them to the Niners, and the Niners use them up.
Is
Yeah,
that what
Niners
the
use them up,
49ers
spit them
organization
out,
is? The
send
glue
them to
factory?
pretty much.
yeah,
Oh
yeah, and
God.
then
Oh
they send them to
man.
the Raiders.
I think that's the
Which
chalk
I
factory.
I will tell you that I feel like that'd be very interesting if you get Garoppolo, Mac Jones, and now Brian Hoyer all in the same room. So that is basically our kind of in-depth look at each of the
Oh man, that'd be
quarterbacks here
fun.
from the last draft class. We're not going to do bust sleeper lock because that kind of doesn't really make sense. But I have a couple questions for you guys, a little superlative action,
Yeah,
if y'all don't mind. So,
I mind.
oh, okay. Well, all right. Goodbye, Ethan. No, I'm just kidding. But so, if
then you
everything
could just
goes
ask me.
perfect for every single quarterback, who is the highest rated quarterback in fantasy by the end of the year out of this
Ooh.
list?
Out of this list,
Mm.
Purdy, no doubt, Purdy for me. And
So the
I
reason why
think
I'd say
Desmond
Ritter
Ritter
over
right behind
Purdy
them.
is because of the rushing aspect. And that would be the only reason of saying like Purdy at his best versus Ritter at his best. I think I'd give him the slight edge just because he might get
Yeah,
rushing work in there as well.
Man,
yeah, but that's for those spike games. See, that's why I I understand that. I understand. I value consistency over those spike performances where he can get about 20, but then you have the potential to have spike games every 3 or 4 games where it's 50 points,
Well, because
40
like
points.
for example, like
So
I think
I
Ritter,
value the
I think Ritter
consistency
at his
more.
best could be, throwing for like, let's say 220 yards, rushing for, let's say
Yeah.
80, throwing a touchdown, rushing a touchdown. That would be like his top end.
It's
Rushing for
it's
80
possible. I
I'm
will not.
saying at
every
his top
Yeah,
end,
Oh my
top end,
God.
top end.
at his top end, what he could be
Dang.
up here.
Man, I I would say
Okay.
personally, if everything goes
I was like,
perfect, I think
dang.
Pickett might be the top rated quarterback. And the only reason
Yeah,
why is that the things that have to go perfect. Najee goes back to what not who Najee was.
yeah,
Deontay gets back to being Deontay, and then Pickens and Muth like improve dramatically. And if those things happen,
Yeah.
I can see it happening. Howell
okay,
Howell scares me a little bit just because it's only been one start.
yeah.
I still think Ritter as good as if everything goes well, I would kind of take Pickett because he's had the 14 games in already over
That's
the
fair.
4 games from Ritter. So
That
like
that's really fair.
I am literally splitting
Yeah, that's
hairs right
true.
here. So I would say by a hair Kenny Pickett.
Okay.
All right, next superlative here.
Yeah.
You guys are going to tell me who is the first quarterback you're trading for out of this group and what would the trade be?
I'd take a shot at Ritter for like a fifth round pick, maybe a fourth.
Because I would right now say Sam Howell for a fifth.
Oh. I was gonna say, yeah, it
Yeah,
was between Ritter and
I think
Sam
you could
Howell. I was gonna go
line
Sam Howell because he
like or
he chose
lean that
Ritter.
line. You could lean any
But
direction for those two.
yeah, I don't know what I would give.
But I feel like so many Ritter owners are just not
Maybe
open to it whatsoever.
shoot. I'd probably give a mid tier or a mid draft pick. Say maybe as much as a 3 if I was really hopeful in a super big Commanders
I
fan,
would
yeah. But
A
I don't
Mega
know if
Manders
I
fan.
would
I would
I would spend that
Mega
much
Manders.
as me right now.
I would say maybe a
Mega
future fourth for
Manders.
Howell. But you have to buy into
Um,
that the enemy is the guy. And you have
Okay.
to buy in that Sam Howell is the guy.
Yeah.
And besides that, it would just be like Ritter, like a fifth.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think I could do anything until the draft pans out because we
Yeah.
don't know what they're going to do in the
Which
draft.
this actually goes to my next question. Who
So,
is the first quarterback to leave off their who is the first quarterback to get booted off their team?
Ooh. It might be Malik Willis. It might be.
Oh
It might be
I
Malik
was
no.
just gonna
Willis.
say I was just gonna say that. I was like, oh man, a lot of
Yeah,
these guys are
like
in good
Skylar
backup
Thompson is cool.
positions right now. And the only one that's kind of in the hot
But
seat
that's
is
also
Malik
because I
Willis.
think the state of the
Like
Tennessee
he is,
Titans is on the hot seat.
yeah, I know, and that's why it's like
So
they spent a
yeah,
lot on this
Malik
guy,
Willis was
and
definitely
that's
my
why it's
answer
like,
to that question.
I feel like that's the only correct answer.
Yep.
interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with
Alrighty.
that.
So I want you to go with this. Say they're near the end of their rookie contracts now. Which player has done the best because of why? So for example, it would be player X did the best out of this group because this happened.
Mm. But there's so many directions you could take that.
That's why we're doing this.
Because like, if I can go on another mini rant, like you can say Brock Purdy can do the best because of Kyle Shanahan. I mean, you can say Desmond Ritter will be the best because of his offensive freaks that he
Yeah.
has in Atlanta.
So I'll give you an answer because my initial answer to this was Desmond Ritter will do the best. Oh, by in 2-3 years, Desmond Ritter will have been the best quarterback out of this group because Kyle Pitts became the tight end we all thought he would be.
Yeah.
So that's one answer.
Okay. I don't know if I have an answer.
Just say that Kenny Pickett will be the best because Matt Canada gets
So
fired.
this is like at the end of the 4 years. Yeah, there you go. Um, because I mean, like I see these guys, some of them lasting
Right.
longer than their
Ryan,
first
do you see
rookie
them in the room with us right now?
rookie contract. But there, yes, I do.
Draver Damas.
Oh, they're everywhere. No, no, but I see. Yeah, no, no Bailey Zappi, no. But
You can't have my starting role.
no,
Stop it.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It's getting weird, guys. No, but I see some of these guys lasting past their rookie contracts, but then others I don't know, maybe just dropping out, but some of them being journeyman,
Yeah, I mean, more than likely, a lot of
backup
them will be
QBs.
big whopping turds.
So I don't know if that, yeah, because I mean these are all late round QBs. There's only one that was drafted before the third round, and that was Kenny Pickett.
Who
Yeah.
we're not even that high on.
So I don't see a lot coming from the, yeah, I don't think a lot of these QBs are gonna be making it very
All right,
long
here
in the NFL. Even Brock Purdy, who we're hopeful on, I don't even know if he'll last past his
yeah.
rookie
All right.
contract.
Here's the last question,
So
and y'all don't have to answer this. Who gets replaced by Caleb Williams first?
Desmond.
The only reason
God,
I ask that is because I still hold true to this argument. I feel like a lot of the QB needy teams that we thought they would be this year, they took their shot in the dark last year and said, you know what, we'll give them a shot. If they're terrible, I have Caleb Williams and Drake May right around the corner, and we will survive another year. So
exactly.
that's why I
Yep.
think I really believe why we didn't see like Desmond Ritter sneak up late first, or Corral or Zap or I mean obviously Purdy was the Mr. Irrelevant, but even like Kenny Pickett was a shock at 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where I do
Yep.
find things to be very interesting is because it has felt like for the last 2 years that they are waiting on one Caleb Williams.
Yeah. But with
Yeah,
that,
no
Is
joke.
I
is
mean,
that is that the slogan of the draft
I
class
think,
of the
yeah, I think
2022
that's
draft
it.
class? We're waiting for Caleb Williams.
I think that's fair. But I
We're
mean,
all just
Ryan, before
waiting.
you hit him with
We're all just
the
waiting.
social medias and stuff, just out of curiosity, like where do you guys see these QBs stacking up? You know, what would you tier them? Where would you rank them against each other? Who do you think will be the best in 4 years? You know, we love talking in the comments. Something we don't get to do very often. So
Yeah.
we want to talk football.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please yeah, please comment on any questions that you guys have for us, or any
Yeah,
critiques on our
sorry. Baseball cap is back.
wardrobe,
Yep.
or anything like that. Feel free. Yeah, feel free. Um but no, thank you guys for coming and watching and listening to our podcast. Those of you that watch it on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. And check out our social media, uh, all at Last Place FP. That's Twitter, Facebook, and yeah.
Ru-
So next week we're going
running
to be
backs.
doing what? Wide receivers or running backs?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that one's going to be fun.
Running backs. All right. So we're
How's
going to be
your
doing
RB
running
one?
backs next week.
How's your over everyone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
How's your supremacy?
Okay.
Long may he reign.
Ethan.
Amen.
No.
Wait, no, wrong church. My bad.
No, wrong. No, that's not the church. That's not the church. That's
And-
the A train, baby.
And before.
Never forget.
All right, Ethan.
Sometimes you are
Get him
right.
with it. Come on.
Sometimes you're right. We'll see you next time.
Have a good one, everybody.